Hi everyone. I'd like to say you're all very welcome here this evening to our webinar, What is Coco's Law? An information session for parents, carers and practitioners. And we're delighted to see so many of you here this evening with us. Coco's Law created new offences which criminalises the non-consensual distribution of intimate images under the Harassment, Harmful Communications and Related Offences Act. It prohibits the sharing of intimate images without the original poster's consent. Tonight, we're going to focus on the awareness of Coco's Law, recognition of the issues that it covers, and guidance on how to avail of its provisions. My name is Siobhan Harvey, and I am the Parenting Lead with the ISPCC. Also joining me this evening are my colleagues, Elizabeth Kavanagh, Community Engagement Manager, and Fiona Jennings, Head of Policy and Public Affairs with the ISPCC. Again, I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time out this evening to be here with us. In a moment, I'm just going to briefly talk a little about ISPCC and the services and the programmes that we have on offer for children, young people and families before introducing you to Fiona, who's going to present this evening. First, I just want to go through a little bit of housekeeping. So you would have noticed that you have automatically been placed on mute and your camera's off, and it will remain that way for the duration of this evening. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions during the webinar, you can send them into the Q&A feature and we'll try and get to as many as possible. If we don't answer your question, please feel free to contact us afterwards. All our contact details will be shared at the end. And if you don't feel comfortable asking a question here this evening, that's okay. Again, you can get in contact with us after tonight. And just lastly, a reminder that tonight's webinar is being recorded and it will be made available on ISPCC digital platforms. So firstly, just a little bit about ISPCC and our services. We're probably best well known for our listening service, and this is a 24/7 service available to children and young people up to the age of 18, where they can contact us via phone or online chat. We also have our Ask Alex service, which is for children and young people, where they can post a question about anything that they want. There's nothing too big or too small, and Alex will reply back to their question. Our Childline Therapeutic Support Service provides children, young people and families with therapeutic support. Our support workers can meet with young people where they're most comfortable. This might be in their home, it could be in a local community centre or online. We have this service in various locations throughout the country. Our programme Smart Moves is a school's transition programme, and this aims to support the emotional resilience of children as they prepare to transition from primary school into secondary school. Another one of our programmes is our Shield anti-bullying programme, and this aims to support organisations in their efforts to proactively manage bullying. Some of our newer programmes are our digital mental health and wellbeing programmes, and they're aimed at reducing anxiety for children and young people. And we also have digital programmes for parents and carers around managing their own anxiety while supporting their anxious child and teen. We have a lot of services also for parents to support them around parenting, and our Parenting Hub on the ISPCC website publishes articles in relation to parenting and parenting support on a range of different topics. We also have an Ask Robin service for parents, which is similar to our Ask Alex for young people, and this is where parents and carers can contact Robin and ask any question in relation to parenting, and again, the reply will be posted up. We have our Digital Ready Hub, which is a trusted destination for information on how you as a parent can support your child or young person to have positive experiences online. So we have lots of video content from cyber psychology experts, the Garda Online Exploitation Unit, clinical psychologists, principals, parents and young people themselves. So it's a really, really good resource for parents to go to. And then if you feel you'd like to talk to someone and get a little bit of support, we have our support line. And this is a listening service offering information, support, guidance to parents and carers. And this is open every day, Monday to Friday, between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. And you can call us on 01 522 4300. And finally, we're delighted to say that Vodafone Ireland Foundation has partnered with DCU Anti-Bullying Centre and Childline to develop and launch the Tozy app. This is aimed at creating a safer, more positive online space for young people, and it's free to download. Tozy aims to educate, empower and support young people with the tools and advice they need to have more positive online experiences. So that really was just a whistle-stop tour of all the ISPCC services and programmes. So for any further information in relation to those, if you log on to www.ispcc.ie, you'll find out more. So now I'd like to introduce you to Fiona Jennings, who's our Head of Policy and Public Affairs. Fiona is one of Ireland's leading voices in child safeguarding and an experienced safeguarding professional. Fiona advocates for legislation change to ensure that laws and policies that impact children's lives do so in a way that serves their best interests. Since 2016, Fiona has been the ISPCC's online safety policy lead and the main author of its position papers on all issues relating to the protection of children online. Fiona has also given testimony about children's online safety issues before Oireachtas committees. A regular media contributor, Fiona works closely with her fellow partners in the Irish Safer Internet to deliver on its mission to make the internet a better and safer place for children and young people, under the coordination of the Department of Justice Cybercrime Unit. Fiona also sits on Cuamhsnamáin's Youth Advisory Committee, and Cuamhsnamáin is Ireland's new commission for regulating broadcasters, on-demand services and online media and supporting media development. Fiona also represents the ISPCC as Societal Impact Champion on TU Dublin's Grow Safe research project, which is looking to develop a technology-enabled solution for building societal resilience against grooming. We are delighted to have you, Fiona, this evening, so you're really, really welcome, and thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Good evening, everybody, and thanks again, everybody, for joining the webinar this evening. And I hope that you'll find useful what we're sharing with you over the next couple of minutes. So I suppose my main part in this webinar is to give you a brief introduction and overview of the Harassment, Harmful Communication and Related Offences Act, known as Coco's Law. And I suppose the genesis of this legislation came about to address the role new digital technologies and new online spaces were having in the harassment, threatening and intimidation of people. And this was something that the Law Reform Commission addressed in its 2016 report on harmful communications and digital safety. So, like, while there was many reports before that, that looked at this particular space as well, it really was this particular report that seemed to give the impetus to the amount of work that followed. In the Law Reform Commission's report, it recommended the introduction of 2 new criminal offences and the reform of a current offence. And I suppose in 2016 as well, the ISPCC was very active in championing those recommendations that the Law Reform Commission had made to bring about this much needed change. But I suppose others were very influential as well, and none other than a lady called Jackie Fox, whose daughter the law is named after. So Nicole Fox Fenlan was bullied from the age of 17 years, physically and emotionally, in person and online. And Nicole took her own life in January 2018 at age 21. So her mum, Jackie Fox, campaigned for a change in the law after Nicole's death. So some of you might have seen the documentary that RTE aired in the last couple of months that looked at Jackie's story and the unbelievable campaigning work that she did to introduce this law when she found out after Nicole had died that there was actually no laws there that could have prevented what happened to Nicole, or that the perpetrators were not going to face any criminal offences for what they did to Nicole. So Coco's Law then was enacted in December 2020. So Jackie would say that, you know, Nicole was, they would always have referred to Nicole as Coco, and that's where Coco's Law has come from. So in December 2020, it was enacted, and on Safer Internet Day in February 2021, it came into force. And with Jackie's relentless campaigning as well, the European People's Party intend to make Coco's Law an EU-wide directive in 2024, so that every child or young person in the European Union would be able to avail of a similar law that we have here in Ireland. So what I'm just going to look at then is just those 2 new offences and the reformed offence that came in. So tonight, I suppose, this webinar, we're aiming it towards parents, practitioners, anybody really that has a child or young person in their lives. And I suppose what we're hoping is that, we create awareness that this particular piece of legislation is there, but also as well that it might help you kind of have or give you maybe confidence to start conversations with those children and young people in terms of what the provisions are. So the reformed offence that came about then, and this is kind of known as the cyberbullying offence. So this was around how it's now against the law to distribute, publish or send threatening or grossly offensive communications with an intent to cause harm. So this is the cyberbullying offence that came in, and should this have been in place at the time, that this would have been something that Jackie Fox would have been able to avail of. And in terms of the penalty then, so if somebody is found guilty of this, they can face a fine or they can face a term in prison of up to 2 years or both. So it is something that nobody would like to be deprived of their liberty for 2 years. So it is quite serious, this particular offence. And as you see there, I've underlined the part about with an intent to cause harm. And when we talk about harm then as well, what we actually mean then as well in the legislation, that's where somebody either intentionally or recklessly, and when we talk about reckless in terms of criminal law, it really means, without a thought for anybody else or didn't think of anybody else. And it's when they're interfering with other people's, their peace, their privacy, and that they want to cause alarm or distress to that person. So that's what we mean when we talk about wanting to, or using the word harm. So the two new offences then, and you might be familiar with some of these terms, was around intimate image abuse. And we look at what an intimate image actually means in a few minutes. So the first one is around distributing, publishing, or threatening to distribute or publish an intimate image without the consent of the other person, and again with that intent to cause harm. So again, this is another serious crime now that we have, and if somebody is found guilty of it, they may get a fine, but they may also get a prison term of up to 7 years. So this is quite serious as well. And then the second one then was the offence that was created was around recording, distributing or publishing an intimate image without consent. And this one then, it doesn't matter whether the person did it and they didn't intend to cause harm, but the fact that they did it, that is still seen to be a criminal offence. And anybody found guilty of that, again, could face a fine, or they may face a prison term of up to 12 months. So just in terms then of, what do we actually mean when we talk about an intimate image? So I've tried to pick out and break down what it actually means for us when we say an intimate image. So first of all, it's any visual representation. And it could be like a photograph, something on film, video, or a digital representation as well. Of what? So of another person, so genitals, buttocks, anal region, and in the case of female, their breasts. Or it could be of the underwear covering those particular body parts as well. Or it could be where a person is in the nude, or where a person is engaged in sexual activity. So the actual definition of an intimate image does cover a wide range of scenarios. And then when we look then at examples of what an intimate image might be, so it might be where an intimate image of you is shared on social media without your consent. It might be where you actually receive an intimate image of somebody else and you didn't ask for it. It could be where someone digitally alters an image of you with an explicit image and shares it without your consent. Or it could be where someone threatens to send an intimate image of you, even if they don't end up sending it. Or sometimes it can be where a person posts an intimate image of you on an adult pornography website without your consent. So there's a vast array of scenarios where this can crop up. So in terms of children and young people then, so in Ireland, I suppose it's really important, first of all, to remember that children and young people are aware of what an intimate image is. If it's shared with them, in particularly, that they don't have the right to share that image further. And often this concept can be lost. We feel that an image is in our possession, so therefore it's mine, I own it, when that's not the case. So it's important that if you are generating conversations around this, that you bring up that. And we look at the new campaign, or the campaign at the for the offences as well, that speaks to that point. But in terms of children and the law, so this might surprise some people, but the age of criminal responsibility in Ireland is 12 years of age, which means any child or young person 12 years or over could potentially be subjected to this particular law. So that's really, really important to remember, that sometimes, we do tend to forget that. But obviously, nobody wants to criminalise children or young people for this type of activity. And everybody that is involved in these particular types of cases do try to work best to support the child or young person. So that would include the authorities and other organisations as well that would be involved. But I think for me in my role, and when I chat to children and young people about policies or about the law, the one thing that always comes back is, we don't know about this. Why aren't we being why aren't we being told about it? At least if we know about it, we could make informed decisions. So it's really important that children are taught about the law, obviously in an age appropriate way, but that they do understand it. They understand it from the point of view that it's there to protect them, but also as well, it's to understand that it's there in terms of trying to prevent certain types of behaviours happening as well. So we would always encourage, I suppose, people who are working with children and young people to use things like, sessions like this, or even if things like this come up in the media, to use those as talking points with children and young people. And finally then, I suppose, in terms of the actual law itself and the different scenarios that it can pop up in, the particular campaign that the Department of Justice has is around the No Excuses campaign. So on the awareness campaign, then you may or may not have seen this. You can Google it easily anyways, and it's No Excuses is the name of it. And I suppose in that is exactly the scenario that I spoke to earlier on, where there is a young guy, he's been sent an intimate image and very much feels, well, it's mine now, I can do anything with it, and goes on to share it. And then the guards turn up at his house and try and explain to him, well, actually, no, you can't. It's now an offence. It's now against the law to do that. In terms of education, so if we have any teachers or educators on the webinar this evening, or again, even parents as well with children in school, at webwise.ie have a fantastic resource, an in-classroom-based resource on what exactly is Coco's Law. So it has lesson plans and it has guidance as well on how to talk to children and young people at different ages about what Coco's Law is. And you can find that at webwise.ie. In terms of reporting it, so if your child or young person, comes to you and they're worried or they're concerned, or you have somebody coming to you that's worried or concerned, it's really important to know where to go to report these types of incidences. So hotline.ie is our national hotline where images like these or concerns like these can be reported to. And hotline.ie then, they work with the various social media platforms and with An Garda Síochána to try to get those particular images taken down. Also as well, An Garda Síochána has an important role. And An Garda Síochána are, they want to hear about these types of crimes. They want to be there to support people in any way that they can as well. So it's really important that, if you are in this situation, that you can contact An Garda Síochána as well, and that they're there for advice and support. And I suppose finally then as well, the ISPCC, while we do a huge amount of work in campaigning for better laws, better policies for children and young people, especially in the online safety space, we also have resources available as well. So Siobhan talked about the Digital Ready Hub at the start. There is so much valuable information there. We hope an easily digestible manner. And really to go in, take the quiz, and just to see, what you don't know. You might be surprised. And what it will do then is it'll direct you then to, different articles or different areas where you can upskill yourself on. And again, to use those then as starting points to start conversations with children and young people. And again, we're very thankful. We have too long of a list of contributors to the Digital Ready Hub to thank them all individually. But our contributors that are on there, they're people that are a huge expertise in their area. And we're very proud of the content that we have on there. And I suppose finally as well, so Siobhan mentioned at the start how we're the societal impact champions for the Grow Safe research project. And what we're looking to do is to build a technology-enabled solution that will build societal resilience against child grooming. So at the moment, we're working with children and young people, trying to develop a game, so co-creating a game with them. So if any schools or young people are out there that are avid gamers or into gaming, we'd love to hear from you. We're kicking off, we've already kicked off the worker actually, but we'll be continuing it again in May and throughout the summer. So again, you'll have contact details after this, and we'd be delighted to hear from you. So hopefully that's got you thinking a little bit more about about Coco's Law and what it actually means as well.
Fiona, thank you so much. That was extremely informative and so transparent. And I like what you were saying there at the end in relation to trying to almost meet the young people where they're at, online in these places, in these platforms, and creating something that's a little bit different and a little bit more accessible for them. So yes, there's definitely been a lot to take in there, both as parent, for the parents that are on and the practitioners that are here who are working with young people and supporting parents maybe as well. Just as we said earlier on at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to run a quick anonymous poll before we go to Q&A to gather your feedback on this webinar. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a few seconds, it's going to come up now as it pops up, and complete it. And again, this is anonymous and it's just for our overall feedback. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds there before we go into Q&A. So yes, so we'll have a quick kind of glance at some of the Q&A that's coming in. We have something here in relation to, with regards to, so my 13-year-old daughter's, Fiona, this is for you now. My 13-year-old daughter's photo has been edited and shared on social media to look like she is naked, which she is not. What can I do about this?
Yeah, so that would definitely could potentially come in under Coco's Law. So again, that's somewhere where there's an image of the child, but it has been altered or digitally altered. So again, those are the types of images or concerns that can be reported to hotline.ie or to An Garda Síochána. But also as well, it's important, that reports are made to the platforms that the images are on as well. But yeah, hotline.ie is really the most important place to go to.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. And that's really interesting as well, because sometimes accessing the platforms that it's on might be difficult, but it seems like Hotline.ie and the guards would facilitate this, or would have the connections there. Am I correct?
Yes. So exactly. So there is a protocol, if you want, set up between Hotline.ie and lots of the social media platforms. So if you like, they have a direct line, if you want, to them, so they're able to access them quite quickly. The same as on Garda Síochána, there's a working relationship there between them and Hotline.ie. So it's really important that people are aware of those services there, because if something, if you want to get something taken down really quickly, it's really important that you avail of those types of services. But again, it's always important to report to the platform as well. But you may not always get a timely response. That's the only thing.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, brilliant. Yeah, I'm a little bit conscious of time. So if you guys have any further questions that you might have for Fiona, that it might come to you later on after this webinar, you can feel free to email us in at the ISPCC. So yeah, we would just like to conclude. And thank you guys.
Liz, but just interrupt. There's just one more question just there that came in from someone, Fiona. So it's looking at, does the person affected by the abuse have to press the charge for the law to be implemented, or can a professional put the case forward? And this is coming, she just wanted to clarify that she works with teens who would receive intimate images without requesting them. How are they protected in this case? So for example, if it's a WhatsApp group, and if one person sends an image and there's 50 young people receive it without requesting it, and it's on their phone. So just a bit of advice around that.
Yeah, so look, this is a big problem with closed messaging groups like WhatsApp, where one person posts something, but all of a sudden it's gone to so many other different people, and then it's gone out of the control of the original person who posted it. Yeah. If it's a case of that they become aware of it, that I would really link in with Hotline.ie, or if it's a professional, I think you mentioned it was a professional, Siobhan. Yeah. Well, then I would contact their fellow professionals in on Garda Síochána as well. Something that I suppose where we're at with Coco's law, and I don't want to say this to kind of frighten anybody, but there's a thin line between what constitutes an intimate image versus what constitutes child sexual abuse material. And obviously there's a whole other suite of legislation there, and a whole other suite of offences. So technically, if somebody has that type of content on their phone, they may be subjected to another piece of legislation. And I'm not saying that to worry or concern anybody. I'm more so saying it that you're aware of it, but also as well that it's not something to be frightened or scared of, because obviously these things happen and they're out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the nature of it. But really the important thing is to report it, to talk to somebody about it and to report it and to try to action it. And I suppose the reason that we always would encourage people to report is, at the end of the day, we're concerned about primarily the person in the image, the child or young person in the image, to ensure that they get the help and support that they need, that the image is removed or taken down or put out of circulation as much as possible. But also as well, I suppose, the people that are sharing these images, especially if they're children and young people as well. And again, I suppose due to the nature of the work that we do, we're not naive that, children and young people are involved in this type of activity. And, so again, it's about having those conversations, making children aware of the different laws that are out there, as I said, at the start, so they can make informed decisions themselves in relation to this type of activity.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Fiona. Sorry about that, Siobhan, didn't come through on my end. Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's extremely empowering, I think, for everybody involved, because what you're doing is you're giving the parents and professionals now the backbone for what their argument is when they're providing that information. So I think that's of huge value. So I'm glad that question came in. So yeah, we're bang on 7:30. So Fiona and Siobhan and everybody else, thank you guys so much. We'd just like to conclude the webinar by saying a huge thank you, and thank you to everybody for watching. And just a reminder as well of some of the services that the ISPCC offer. You can see that we have the support line for parents and professionals, which is 01522 4300. So that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 1. We've got our parenting support email if you want to take that down. We have Ask Robin, as Siobhan has already mentioned, the Parenting Hub online on our website, and the Digital Ready Hub and the Digital Mental Health and Wellbeing programs. So thank you guys again. We really appreciate, or we also have a Tozy app as well, as Siobhan has already mentioned. So it's a feel-good online space for your young people, which is free to download on Apple and on Android. So again, thank you guys so much, and here are contact details for any further follow-up questions.